welcome back to Crane Kick Commentaries. As always, I'm your host, Jake Del Mastro, and as always, I'm joined by my very good friend and co-host, Keaton Meyer. Hello, Keaton.
Hello, hello, hello. A long time it has been.
Yeah, it's we missed a week.
Yeah,
Keaton,
I had canker sore so bad I couldn't speak.
yes.
It was unpleasant. So I did not speak. So here we go into Star Trek: The Motion Picture Part 2.
Yeah, not to be confused with Star Trek II: The Wrath of Khan.
Yeah, maybe we'll do that one day because that's a good movie.
Maybe,
but,
yeah.
No, yeah, this is the first film of the series, and this is our second part of it. And this is a big part because last week we talked a lot about the
journey to this
exactly,
film.
Exactly. Last week was more about
Gene's
the
journey through the desert.
Exactly. It was we talked about Gene's desert period.
Yeah.
And then what else did we talk about? We did the 6 degrees of Stargate.
Stargate, yeah, we did that.
Yeah. So yeah, this week we're gonna actually talk about the making of the film, and there's a lot of good stuff. So I'm pretty excited about this week.
Cool. Oh, we have one thing to get through.
One
Yes.
thing just to look at, I think, before we get into everything, though.
Yeah, so this is our segment, which I'm calling Extra Track. Okay, so on Extra Trek today, we're going to talk about the episode of the original series that is almost exactly the same as this film.
Fuck yeah. Yeah, I think the astute Trek fans out there throughout the whole first episode will have surely picked up on that, and that we didn't really talk about it.
But we will talk about it today because
yeah, exactly.
There is an episode of the original series. I believe it's season 2.
Yeah, I don't have the episode open. I need to open it.
It's called The Changeling.
All right.
And yes, it was season 2, episode 3. And in this episode, tell me if this sounds familiar. The Enterprise goes to investigate a mysterious disappearance of a colony. And they find this very powerful seeming enemy that seems to it seems to have the power to destroy the Enterprise very quick. The Enterprise is no match for it, right?
Yeah.
But they find that in fact it's only a meter in size, which is different.
That's a little different. That's slightly different.
That's different. But they find that it's transmitting a simple binary code.
Ooh.
Which, that might sound familiar.
Yeah.
And then it beams aboard their ship after they respond to its message.
What is its message?
I can't actually remember what the message was.
I am Nomad.
Well, he does say that when he gets beamed aboard. He says, "I am Nomad."
I am perfect.
Okay, we'll get into that. Because the end, the way they deal with this is also different.
Yes.
Let's focus on the similarity.
Yeah,
here.
sorry.
They beam aboard this probe, which calls itself Nomad, and they find out that Nomad was an old probe. I don't know if they said it was launched by NASA, but I think they might have said that.
I think they just say something about the 21st century.
Yeah, 21st century. I can't remember what year they said it was, but they find out that it's a space probe from Earth that has come back, but is somehow all super powerful now all of a sudden. And
it was launched from Earth in 2002.
Good. Okay. Good.
Yeah.
Good call on that.
Just so you know. Go on,
and it finds out that the Enterprise is infested.
Oh no.
I think that's the word it uses. Infested.
I think it is, yeah.
with impure life forms, right?
I wonder what those
Imperfect. Sorry?
I wonder what those are.
Yeah, and that refers to the Enterprise crew.
Because the Enterprise is pretty perfect unto itself.
However, it calls Kirk the creator.
What? I don't remember that.
It calls Kirk the creator, and it obeys him more or less because it believes that he's the creator.
Yeah.
So while they're trying to find out, anyway, a bunch of shit happens, and the probe ends up killing Scotty.
Oh right, that's rough. That's a rough.
And erasing Uhura's memory.
It's pretty dark shit.
Now the probe is like, oh yeah, sorry, my bad. I'm gonna bring Scotty back to life, but fuck Uhura or whatever. I don't know. Like I can't do shit about that. Sorry?
He's dead, Jim.
Yeah, I know exactly. So anyway, they bring back Scotty back to life and shit like that, but then they're like, well, we can't restore Uhura's memory, but we can re-educate her, which is really weird.
We can reanimate Scotty.
Yeah, but we can re-educate Uhura, which is what they do, and they teach her to read again.
That's weird.
And then this never comes up again ever in the series.
That's really weird.
That this happened to her.
There's some strange choices.
The basic similarities are that we have this alien probe. This probe from Earth.
Yeah.
And it goes off and it comes back and it's like, I'm going to come back and destroy Earth.
Yeah, well, I'm gonna rid Earth of its human population.
Exactly.
Because it doesn't understand its relationship to humanity. I believe Spock mind melds with it in the episode as well.
It does. It does mind meld with Spock, yeah. And somehow Spock can handle it.
Yeah, I feel like it's not quite as devastating in the episode.
Yeah, but in the process of mind melding, Spock finds out that this is that there is some other probe, that these two probes crashed into each other, and it crashed into an alien probe, and they kind of like repaired each other together.
Right.
Like they merged into one, and then it gained all this super powerful stuff, but it corrupted its memory banks.
No, fuck.
Sort of like V'ger, you know what I mean?
Exactly like V'ger. Yeah.
And so, but it's the other probe's, mission was to collect and sterilize soil samples.
Right. That was the right. Yeah.
Yeah. So it interpreted this as like, oh, I need to sterilize everything.
Oh no. Yeah, that's a rough interpretation.
Yeah, because it was all fucked up and broken and parts of his memory banks were erased. And then in the end, Kirk does his classic thing where he, debates logic with a computer.
Yeah,
and somehow causes it to go into an infinite loop and explode.
Yeah, he beats the computer at logic.
Which is, very classic Star Trek thing to do.
It's great. Yeah, well, the human ability to
wholly
reason.
Unbelievable, but,
who
am I to debate Star Trek?
Exactly. The human ability to reason far surpasses any machine's ability to coldly and mechanically calculate.
Yeah. Also that, anytime a computer can't figure something out, it completely explodes.
Yeah. If it gets into a loop, it's
catches fire. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, cool. He's just thinking it's just like incorporating the short circuiting idea.
Yeah.
But
anyway, there's a lot of similarities between this episode and the film.
Yes.
So much so that I might consider the film to be just an expanded version of this episode script.
Yeah, really. It's kind of just like a movie, a feature-length, higher budget version. Yeah. With, better writers.
Yeah, so
or better paid writers.
Right.
Let's put it that way. Better paid writers with more time on their hands.
Gene apparently was one of the writers of this episode.
Oh, really? Well, that makes sense that he felt comfortable repurposing it then.
Exactly. But yeah, I think there's a lot of
Yeah,
similarities.
it's a sick episode.
V'ger and Nomad, they're pretty much the same.
Yeah, V'ger and Nomad.
Except V'ger is the prop has a lot more money in it.
Yeah,
it's not floating around on a fishing wire.
And Nomad is just inherently a fucking cooler name, or objectively rather.
Yeah, it is.
I get why it had to be V'ger, but V'ger's not a good name.
Yeah. Well, I think that one of the interesting things about the V'ger is that like the Voyager probes were like literally being launched around the time of this movie.
Yeah, exactly. Well, that's a whole other conversation. The Voyager, the greatest ship in Starfleet, the greatest ship at Starfleet's disposal.
You're saying it's better than the Enterprise?
Look at how it's put up with more than the Enterprise has. It's had to be.
Really?
I'm not saying it's better.
That.
I said nothing. I'm just saying that
You said it put up with more.
It's been through more stress.
So do we count like a specific Enterprise?
Oh, good point. Because there are, yeah.
Or do we count all the Enterprises?
Well, if you're counting all the Enterprises, then obviously there's no competition.
Or I would argue that, the original Enterprise, or at least the one from TOS, which also appears in the film.
Yeah.
Although it's been upgraded.
It's been very upgraded.
I think we only see all the shit that Voyager has been through because Voyager ran for more seasons.
That's true.
Like, I'm sure there's a ton of shit that happened to the Enterprise off screen that we didn't see. And judging by what happened on screen, there's got to be like.
But you see, the Enterprise had like the whole backing of like Starfleet's engineering wing. They had hundreds of thousands of minds working on fixing it and getting it in ship ready. Whereas
I don't know,
Voyager was relying on the ingenuity of Captain Janeway and her.
Yeah, but I'm saying keep in mind this was like back in like Voyager is like hundreds of years after, like basically 100 years after TOS, and it's like the galaxy was like the Wild West back then, man. Like, you didn't have support from Starfleet like you did later.
It's true.
Like,
good point.
so,
it's true.
I find that, Kirk was up against a lot of the similar things that Janeway was up against.
It's true. Yeah, they had a lot of similar. Yeah. Anyway, this is a conversation for a different podcast.
Now, Picard, that's a guy who had all the backing.
He had it easy.
He had it easy. Yeah.
That's why he shouldn't be a captain. He should be a communications officer.
Well, that's.
But that's.
Anyway, let's continue.
That's a conversation for another time. So is that all? Is that the conversation about Trek, the episode?
Yeah, that's extra Trek.
Anyway, let's talk about the production of this Star Trek film.
Yeah.
The Star Trek, the motion picture. So
all right, we're 15 minutes in, and now we're talking about the film.
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay.
That's fine. So, as we mentioned last week, the motion picture is fully greenlit. Production was set to begin in 1977 because of the TV show Star Trek Phase 2, as you mentioned last.
Yeah,
last
the canceled
episode.
TV show.
Yeah. And then it was canceled because they were like, let's just fucking make a movie instead, right?
Yeah. They aborted, shall we say.
Yeah. It never came to pass. And then they just kind of changed the story. They just upgraded everything, basically.
Yeah, they just made the Changeling, but with more money.
Yeah, exactly. Instead of making the Changeling over the series of the whole Star Trek Phase 2, they did it in a film.
To be honest, I think if Phase 2 had happened, they probably would have basically redone that episode.
Yeah, probably. Totally. Yeah. I'm sure he would have revisited a lot of stuff.
Well, I mean, there are a couple, there's an episode of Voyager that I can think of with similar themes.
I mean, yeah, Voyager does revisit a lot of similar themes that the original series does. Anyway, I'm desperate to talk about Voyager, as you know, but it's actually somehow not really relevant.
I don't know, man. Voyager, we're talking about Voyager a lot in this.
V'ger,
episode.
yeah, Voyager.
Yeah.
God, I know.
Yeah, I know exactly.
So this is the point when Wise is hired to direct. I fucking forgot his first name. Robert Wise. When Robert Wise is hired to direct. And
All-star director Robert Wise.
Yeah, and we talked about kind of like him a little bit last week.
Yeah.
But him and Gene Roddenberry really get along. Apparently, they kind of have go through
Well,
the
I think
story
they're from
together.
the same generation, partially as well.
Yeah, they're from the same generation, and they're like-minded about religion and space and philosophy, stuff like
Right.
that. So they started to working on it, and Wise said he liked the story, but he said the action and the visuals were not really that good.
Sorry, Robert Wise said that?
Yeah, that was his take on the script when he came into the picture. It seems though at this point that Gene was kind of just fucking burnt out from
I can imagine.
from just 10 years of writing Star Trek scripts just over and over and over.
Yeah, and none of them getting made.
I imagine his nerves were probably pretty frayed at that point.
Yeah.
But so they hired another writer. Apparently Gene pranked him.
Oh yeah, what did he do?
What they did was they got one of the actresses to pretend to be his secretary.
To be Gene's secretary?
No, to be Harold Livingston's. They're like, we've given you part of the film is you get this secretary, and basically she just hit on him and was the worst secretary that she could be.
Oh yeah. Do you know which actress it was?
She might not have been in this film.
Oh okay. Anyway, how long did she commit to this for? Because I feel like that's a high effort joke.
I think it was a full day thing. Right. Because she again, she was just trying to be the worst secretary ever. She kept going into his office while he was writing and stuff and interrupting him. The whole point I think was to try and make him go crazy, and I think at a certain point he looked like he was going to snap, so they let him in on it. Anyway, he didn't seem to bother him too much because he was a good sport about it. So they bring Leonard Nimoy in because at first, he wasn't really interested, or he had said that he wasn't interested, publicly.
Well, he wasn't going to be in Phase 2.
Exactly. He had said publicly, I believe, that he would never do Spock again, and they were not going to recast Spock.
No way.
So basically, they had to write in Spock somehow. So that's how that kind of came to be.
So Spock wasn't originally in the script?
Yeah.
Well, I guess, yeah, because if he wasn't in the series and they were basically working off stuff from the series, then...
Yeah, and I bet Gene was like, yes, now he can mind meld with him.
Yeah, and they can do the whole Kolinar thing.
Yeah, well, I bet they had a different Vulcan mind melding with it in the original script. Anyway, when Harold Livingston, when he came in to the...
Yeah, so when Harold came in, this is what he said about the state of the story. He said, the basic concept of the story was unworkable. We had a marvelous antagonist, if I do say so myself, so omnipotent that for us to defeat or even to communicate with it or have any kind of relationship made the initial story false. Here's this gigantic machine that's 1 million years further advanced than we are. Now, how the hell can we possibly deal with this? On what level? As the story developed, everything worked until the very end. How do you resolve this thing? If humans can defeat this marvelous machine, then it's really not so great, is it? Or if it really is great, will we like those humans who defeat it? Should they defeat it? Who is the story's hero anyway? That was the problem. We experimented with all kinds of approaches. Theological, aesthetic, philosophical, comical, anything. We didn't know what to do with the ending. We always ended up against a blank wall. I would like to see the comedy ending.
Yeah, I really want to see it. How, what would that look like?
Because I feel like we end up with probably the philosophical version.
Yeah, because I think that's the easiest way to make it kind of ambiguous because there's no hero, like, or not no hero. There's no.
What are you talking about? Fucking Kirk and Spock and McCoy are the heroes.
Well, obviously, they're. I just mean there's no antagonist really.
Leisure.
In the end.
Oh, well, he comes around.
Exactly. At this point, like, it seems like Robert Wise brought in William Shatner and Leonard Nimoy to like consult on the script.
Right, because we know bringing on William Shatner to help make the story is a great idea.
Yeah, which that struck me as like maybe not the best call, but
yeah. Well, maybe it's just so that he would feel involved and so that he wouldn't complain later.
It could have been that. It could have just been to satiate him.
Yeah. But yeah, no, I mean, I think because Nimoy later becomes like pretty involved with like writing and directing the series, so
yeah,
like, he seems like a good call there.
Yeah.
But yeah, I feel like when they do this, oftentimes it's just to make the actors feel included.
Yeah, you're probably right.
Yeah.
I think it just kind of like became a nightmare. The script though, they just I don't know if they.
Well, yeah, they were saying they started shooting it before they even finished the last third of it.
Yeah, exactly. Like I don't know if it was a too many cooks in the kitchen situation or if it was they couldn't like.
Well, I think it partially it's like I think there were some very grandiose ideas, and it's one of those things where like in your head it's really good. But then when you try to like put it down on paper and then put it onto the screen, it kind of doesn't feel right.
Yeah.
It's
they're
never
like,
as good as the thing in your head.
Well, it's kind of like they're really lofty ideas that like, don't really come down to earth very easily.
Well, exactly. Yeah.
And like when you start picking apart the details, especially when you have to, show all the details in a film.
Yeah, I mean this is something that you notice. There's a lot of Gene Roddenberry's work, actually. Like, a lot of the episodes, the ones that he wrote of TOS are all like that.
They end with just, like, the, like fade to light.
Kind of, yeah.
They're all like the end of 2001.
Yeah.
They're all in that, of that vibe.
Mm.
So the script was really a fucking nightmare. Like, it got to the point where it's being rewritten like several times a day.
Yeah,
which is insane to think about. Like, and it confused the actors to the point, where they had to start like writing down what hour the draft was.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So it's like this is the draft from 2 p.m. Like, wait, do you have the 2 p.m. draft or the 5 p.m. draft?
Right. Actually, that makes me think. I don't know if they color coded it because that's a good. They did color code it.
They did, and they said by the end it was like a fucking like the working script was a fucking like every page was a different color.
Oh, really? Wow.
They were like, we got really far down the list. He said they were like, at first we were using like blue, green, and then it got to like fuchsia and like
eventually
salmon.
You run through all the colors, right?
Yeah, and like that means what that means is the actors are rehearsing their lines moments before they're shooting. Like that's
exactly
not a great way to work as an actor.
No, probably not. But
I can imagine.
This is what you get when you try to contain the grand ideas of Gene Roddenberry on such a finite medium as film.
Exactly. There is no medium broad enough to fully contain his vast vision. Exactly.
Yeah.
It just can't be done on this physical plane.
No. Maybe it would require filling up the entire space, the final frontier, with his ideas.
Yeah, it would. It really would. He called translating the episode into film, like the episode from Star Trek Phase 2, I believe.
Yeah,
is what he's talking about.
Is in itself is copied from.
Yeah.
The Changeling. The Changeling. Yeah.
He called it, quote, a writer's nightmare.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, that always seems weird. Because it's like, I feel like normally when you're writing, you're trying to take something that's like, you know, a really broad idea and like narrow it down, whereas that's actually kind of the opposite.
How do you mean?
Well, he started with an episode, which is a like 45-minute deal,
Yeah,
and you're trying to blow it up to
it's true. You
2
gotta like
hours or whatever.
infuse more
Yeah.
into it. Because yeah, he was saying something like, it was like as soon as you, it was the kind of story where as soon as you start to pick it apart, just more questions get raised, especially about the ending. I think is specifically what he was talking about, which is the same stuff that Livingston was talking about, like the same kind of issue.
Yeah.
With like,
well, there was just no satisfying way to end it. I think
yeah,
that's
exactly.
the conclusion, right?
Yeah.
Except what they came up with. Well, I think the jury's out on that.
Yeah, the jury's definitely still out on that one, and will be for a while, I'm sure. So even I think Gene even started fucking regretting the choice until you write it like this. He was like, I wish I could just fucking start again, but we've already started filming.
Yeah, there's no way you can do that.
Yeah. But they powered through. So, last week we mentioned briefly. Well, you brought up Isaac Asimov was brought in.
Yes, he was.
Studio. And apparently his role was kind of like to like prove to the studio executives that like it was a viable idea, like that it was like a good science fiction idea. And then secondly, he was also supposed to like kind of be like sort of like an ambassador almost to the science fiction community. Like he was like, the science fiction community will accept this. And to kind of expand on this, there's actually a letter here from Jeffrey Katzenberg to Gene Roddenberry and Robert Wise.
To Gene Roddenberry, and Robert Wise.
And it's about Isaac Asimov.
Should we read the letter?
Yeah, I'll read the letter. As I mentioned to you, Isaac Asimov has read the latest draft of Star Trek, and he feels that with the possible exception of the wormhole, the science fiction community will readily accept what is currently in our script. The generally accepted theory by the science fiction community is that a wormhole is the area between a black hole and a white hole. It is assumed that one could not enter a wormhole without having first passed through a black hole. Since this is not the case in our script, it is Isaac's feeling that a small fraction of the sci-fi community could take exception to this. Isaac suggested that if it is possible to change this one word in the post-production of this film, so maybe they had already shot this bit, then we should. However, he feels that the number of people that will pick up on this inaccuracy is small. Isaac feels it would be more accurate, as well as acceptable to the sci-fi fans, if we call it a, quote, temporal tunnel, the vague definition of which is a time tunnel in which travel and time are distorted. Given the above data, I think we should make the effort to correct this, if possible, during post-production.
Okay, so if I recall correctly, they called it a wormhole in the film.
They did call it a wormhole.
Yeah. So normally I consider myself kind of a stickler for accuracy in films. Like, if you have the information, and you may as well get it right.
You tend to be a stickler, I find, for like when they misuse violently misuse gear shit. Like in the Star Wars movie when they called something like an oscillator that just like blatantly had no oscillation involved whatsoever.
Yeah, well, okay, that kind of thing really bothers me, but it's like, it doesn't bother me that they got it wrong. What bothers me is that it could have taken them 2 seconds to figure out that it was wrong.
Like the wormhole thing?
No, this doesn't bother me.
Oh, right.
Merely because, from my understanding, I'm not a physicist or whatever. Maybe I'd have to ask Felix about this.
Yeah, I was thinking maybe we should have brought Felix.
I don't think that we understand wormholes well enough, to say definitively that this is or is not how they work.
Yeah, I was just gonna say I don't fucking know. Seems
so
reasonable.
The kind of thing
to
that
me.
bothers me is when it's something that, the answer is readily available.
Right, when
and
it's like
you just
actual...
didn't take the time to like figure out what the proper usage of this word is. Right,
right. Yeah, it was just like bad technobabble. Like, because Star Trek
exactly.
is the master of technobabble, but
yeah. Well, the thing I love about Star Trek Technobabble is that all of it is fake.
Yeah, exactly. Like
it's all made up.
None of the
so
words.
You don't have
anything.
any risk of like stepping on any like real science and getting.
It's like the hydrophasing quantum converters.
Those words are completely meaningless.
It's like, yeah, exactly.
So it's like, in my opinion, if you're gonna use like technical jargon, you should either get it correct or make it all up.
Yeah, I think that's a good approach, because it's just, you're just asking for trouble when you like use stuff incorrectly.
Exactly. And then, people like me are going to just like cringe when we see it.
Yeah, you're just going to alienate people.
I don't know how many people would have cringed at the wormhole thing. Also, just because I feel like wormholes are a pretty well accepted like trope in science fiction now.
Yeah. Well, this is...
Maybe they weren't at the time.
So the date of this letter is October 23rd, 1978.
Right. It just actually, this makes me wonder what Isaac Asimov would have thought of Stargate, because it's all about wormholes.
I have no idea. I actually have no fucking clue. He probably would have liked it. I don't know.
I have no idea. Yeah. But yeah. Anyway, interesting. And that was my rant about accuracy.
Yeah. Well, it's super interesting, and it's super. I find it just super hilarious that they had
Well, most of this letter is about that wormhole thing.
Yeah.
2/3 of this letter are about the wormhole thing.
Yeah,
which is a point that they even mention is not that important.
Yeah, like Jeff is like really fixated on the wormhole, or maybe Isaac was, and like
I think Isaac was. I think he's just relaying Asimov's comments.
Yeah. Well, it's like it's like just weird that they had like, they weren't giving Gene so much shit earlier on, but they have the like foresight to hire Isaac Asimov to look over it, to like make sure.
I mean,
the
I don't know.
science
I don't know if
fiction
Gene would have objected to that.
If you say that again,
specifically, I don't know if Gene would have objected to that specifically. Like, I mean, Isaac Asimov had a fair amount of credibility at the time.
Yeah. I didn't say it like he. I think Gene would have thought it was a good idea. I just made it's just weird that the studio thought to do it.
Yeah. I'm kind of surprised. Like, I would have thought maybe even Gene would have reached out to him himself.
Yeah, and maybe he did, and maybe it went through the studio, but yeah. So, and anyway, we can move on to the actual filming, because filming was a bit chaotic, it seems, as well.
Yeah, like we were saying, like, we keep mentioning this, that the script was not done when they started filming, and that's got to just complicate everything.
Yeah, it's like, and the kind of like butterfly effect from that will kind of, you see, continues to happen. So Wise he's a diligent like pre-planner. He like really like,
who is this Wise?
Robert Wise. Yeah. He like plans things out very particularly, and he rehearses scenes apparently 8 to 10 times before shooting. So he's a stickler.
I mean, that doesn't surprise me. Like, watch fucking West Side Story or whatever. Like, immaculately choreographed, right?
Yeah, exactly. Like that's true. And apparently he was like super likable director. Like nobody thought he was.
Yeah, I can imagine. Yeah.
And apparently even the sound mixer started a pool like among the crew about when Wise would lose his temper first, but he never had a tantrum, never lost his temper. Wow. So everyone got their money back.
So they were thinking that he would lose his temper based on just what a clusterfuck of a situation they found themselves in.
Yeah, they were like, this is chaos. This is a clusterfuck. He's definitely gonna lose his start. He's gonna shout at somebody. The question is, how soon is it gonna happen? But he never.
Well,
did.
That's what a true leader does.
Yeah.
How can the people who work for you be expected to keep their composure if you can't?
He's taking notes from Captain Kirk.
Wow, Captain Kirk loses his shit all the time. Though.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, more like Janeway.
I don't know. She's had a couple of meltdowns too.
A couple. So, but apparently, like we said, Wise said that this production had more small technical difficulties throughout production than any other film he's ever worked on.
This is Robert Wise who said that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, also like just in terms of the sophistication of like the sets and all the effects and stuff that they had to be done.
Absolutely, yeah.
You have a lot more points of failure.
And stuff's changing all the time, so I imagine you
Yeah.
have more shit than you need.
Yeah.
Because you put work into stuff that you don't need.
Yeah, and then you find out like, oh, we're not doing this.
Yeah, Robert Weiss called the day the Earth, when he made the day the Earth stood still, he called it a simple production in comparison.
Yeah.
Which,
I mean, that was made like several years, like significantly prior to this, so obviously it's gonna be like, I think things get as more ambitious as you move forward. You know what I mean?
yeah, that's true. That's true. Robert Wise he credits kind of his like the main maintenance of his sanity. He credits a guy named Zuby, whose name is actually Maurice Zuberano, but he called him Zuby.
Yeah.
And this guy was like a storyboard artist who was basically, he was an alter ego of the director, and that's a quote like from Wise, or not from Wise, from
Wait, is this a real person?
yeah, Maurice Zuberano, Zuby.
Okay.
He described himself as an alter ego of the director because he was like, basically his job was to know exactly what Robert Wise was thinking and like draw something to make it easier. So he would like just basically always be around, just like frantically drawing shit.
Okay. Cool.
And that apparently, according to Wise, was like kept him like on top of shit.
Cool. Good job, Zuby.
Yeah, Zuby kept shit
MVD.
fucking nailed down. So the planet Vulcan was partially filmed in Yellowstone and partially filmed in a studio.
Okay. I feel like that's odd because it's like not even that long of a scene.
It is odd. It's not long of a scene, and frankly, the Yellowstone doesn't read at all.
Yeah.
Like,
I mean, it seems like pretty clear that it's like it's hot wherever it is. I guess.
But like as soon like the close-ups in a studio, and there's like, as you say, it's super short, so there's like not really any like. There's like a few backgrounds, but like most of the time it's just like Spock kneeling on what is clearly a set. So it's like, oh, okay.
Yeah, I guess.
So maybe there was the longer scene that they cut or something.
Yeah, I mean, see, this is the scene where they do the Kolinar.
Yeah.
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 Should we talk a little bit about what the Kolinar is? Because I feel like they don't really explain it in the movie very well.
They explain it briefly in the movie, but yeah, do you want to give it a little bit of a background?
All right, so Kolinar, as per MemoryAlpha.com.
Well,
sorry,
yeah.
not MemoryAlpha. MemoryAlpha.com is not actually the address, but from Memory Alpha.
MemoryAlpha.fandom.com.
Yes. Kolinar, as a word, describes both the Vulcan ritual by which all remaining vestigial emotions were demonstrated as purged, and the mental discipline whereby this state was subsequently maintained. Not all Vulcans were required to make this final journey to pure logic. The duration of the Kolinar, quasi-monastic in nature, and could vary from 2 to 6 years.
Wow.
Yeah. So basically, yeah, it's the...
It's like the final
ceremony.
level of Vulcan.
Yeah, it's like the final level of Vulcanism. And
it's like the highest level of Scientology.
no, I don't think so. I don't think it's that high.
No, you don't
like a lot of Vulcans have it.
Right.
Like Tuvok did like a Kolinar. Eh?
Did he?
Yeah. Well, he didn't do it in the show. He had done it though.
Right.
Well, I mean, Tuvok's a pretty good Vulcan.
He's an excellent Vulcan.
Anyway, moving on.
Yeah. Well, so talking about the sets, they were built by production designer Harold Michelson. That's kind of interesting story because he was obsessed with space. Like he was a great guy for this job because he had an obsession with space.
Yeah.
Which I think is a great quality.
It's a great trait to have working on Star Trek.
Exactly, especially when you're the production designer.
Yeah.
But coincidentally, do you know what had triggered his love of space? Was in 1976 he toured the actual spaceship formerly known as the Constitution, but actually known as the Enterprise.
Ah, the space shuttle.
Yeah, the shuttle.
I mean, it was a space shuttle, but it didn't go to space.
But it was a space design shuttle. But yeah, that's kind of funny. So he got obsessed with, after visiting the Enterprise and touring the Enterprise, he got obsessed with space, and then later got hired to be the production designer for Star Trek. So he designed the inside of
the Enterprise.
Yeah. So it was like a huge project for Paramount that year because they ended up using over a third of the sound stages that Paramount had during the production.
Wow, just to build the Enterprise in?
Yeah, basically, just like because that's where the film takes place. It's the Enterprise.
Yeah. That's funny though, because I feel like most of it just happens on the bridge, right? Although
I know,
guess they have
weird.
that big that one shot that's in that big like sort of auditorium looking place.
Yeah, that's true. And there's like there's the Colonnar, and then there's the inside V'ger.
Yeah, that's true.
So I have here kind of a breakdown of the construction budget of each item.
Yeah.
And as you can see, the bridge and the corridors and transporter room were the most expensive by far.
Really? I was kind of thinking the engine room might be more expensive.
Yeah, well, the engine room is super interesting, but we'll talk about that in a second. But I think it's mostly just because of how many like intricate little flashing lights are like facing the camera on the bridge.
On the bridge.
On the bridge, yeah. Like in the engine room, like the actual stuff is like the computers are around, but it's never the focus is obviously the other thing.
Right.
The why am I blanking on it? What it's called? The warp core or whatever. So yeah, the bridge costs $200,000 to make, and the corridors and the transporter room costs, and I think that's
the medical and the medical.
Oh yeah, and the medical Kirk's quarters engine room. So that's all wrapped up in one stage.
Yeah, although you got a lot of mileage out of the corridors.
Yeah, they did because they basically just used.
There's so many different ways you could shoot corridors to make it look like a different room.
Yeah, exactly.
I think
and
remember reading something about like on TNG or whatever, there was only one corridor set. They just shot it from a bunch of different angles.
I think that's the same here. I think there's only one corridor, and they just they light it differently, and they shoot from different angles, and it's just like different corridor. How are you going to tell the difference?
Yeah, for sure.
So the total construction costs were almost $2 million, which is 1978.
A significant chunk of the budget.
Quite a lot of money went into building everything.
Well, the whole planet Vulcan only cost $42,000.
Wow, that's a steal.
Exactly. I'd pay that for the planet Vulcan.
Yeah, I would take out a loan to buy Vulcan for that.
Yeah.
So this is a great fact. That it didn't read to me at all while I was watching the film. In order to make the engine room look bigger, they used a forced perspective.
Classic trick.
Yeah. And so the set
was... I assume that means that, things slant in the back?
Exactly, yeah. So it's supposed to... Yeah, because it was supposed to be, a few blocks, right? Long.
Yeah.
And it was only about 40 feet, and the floor slanted up, as you say. And this is the best part to me. They put extras in the background of varying heights of 3, 4, and 5 feet to further force the perspective. So
they had to find some 4-foot actors 3-foot actors.
Exactly.
Stand in the background. That's funny.
I found that just amazing.
Yeah, that's pretty great.
But yeah, that was cool. The other, I think, super intense set was obviously the V'ger set, because I think...
Oh, yeah. No, that's got to be, one of the biggest, that whole thing that they're walking along with all the, tiles.
Yeah, exactly. I think I posted a picture of it on the Instagram
oh, you did?
last week.
Yeah.
I'll post another one, but yeah. It's super cool and this is super important, it's the culminative scene happens in this room, so, it's got to look good.
Exactly,
one of the guys
this is the climax here.
Yeah. So one of the designers is a guy named Leon Harris. He described the the set as a modern technical Stonehenge in a cathedral-like setting. I think that's spot
Wow.
on.
Yeah.
So as I was kind of mentioning earlier about that kind of butterfly effect, just kind of like, of the script, what that meant is that they had to build shit on the fly, you know?
Yeah, it's like, oh, we don't know we're gonna need this location or not.
Exactly. So apparently, like, they were making shit so often, and they were like, had all these, uh, stages like full that the carpenters had to like hammer between takes, because they were like
Oh yeah.
building shit while they're filming.
Like on the same stage. Yeah.
Yeah,
Jeez.
and like I think it got so like crazy they were like trying to cut corners any way they could. So normally I think at the time, I don't know how it works now, but at the time to like you'd have two separate crews to like set up and tear down a set,
Yeah, that makes sense.
and they're two like unionized crews that do different things, I imagine. So in order to cut that, they just kind of had the same people just work like the whole thing and just like set up and tear down in the same go.
Yeah. Wow.
So I don't know if that would fly nowadays.
I don't know. As long as you paid them enough.
Yeah, exactly. It's true.
Although I don't think that would be cutting costs.
Yeah, that's kind of the point. So, Robert Fletcher did the costumes.
Oh yeah, that's interesting actually that you mentioned the costumes. Because do you notice that this is the only film in the series where they wear these costumes? They changed the uniforms like immediately after this. I heard something about like Shatner or whatever said that they were like uncomfortable or.
Well, the short sleeve is terrible. Like we could just say we can agree on that, right? His like V-neck short sleeve is not a good look. The other uniforms are fine.
The red ones, yeah, that they have in the next movies.
Well, yeah,
those are pretty classic.
Those are pretty good. I mean, they're a little weird, but I meant Robert Fletcher's in this one. Does Robert Fletcher do the next movies?
I don't know. Let's find out.
Yeah.
Robert. Yeah, he did do the other movies. Pretty much all of them, yeah. Wow. Yeah.
But yeah, so that's interesting that he did all the costumes. So he changed it dramatically after the first one, because Shatner allegedly.
I don't know if it was Shatner, but apparently, in general, I don't think people thought they were comfortable.
Yeah, well, they don't look comfortable, but they look kind of cool.
Yeah, it's interesting. Yeah, like there's a very 70s aesthetic to them.
Yeah,
well, which is obvious because this is the only Star Trek film made in the 70s.
Yeah, that's true.
I mean, it's not the only Star Trek made in the 70s because technically there was the animated series, but
yeah, well, that's not a film.
Yeah.
So yeah, it was Fred Phillips who did the original series makeup. So they brought him back to do the makeup and the alien masks. So apparently they had to make 50 masks and heads. Seems like a lot to me.
Yeah.
I don't remember seeing that many alien masks and heads in this movie.
Oh, there were a couple, like in the Enterprise crew and all the Klingons.
Oh, you know what? And the there's that scene on
Actually,
Earth.
This is the first appearance of the classic Klingon makeup.
Yeah, that's true.
It's the first time they have the head bumps.
So sick. And you only see them at the beginning there.
Yeah, and I believe it's also the first use of the Klingon language.
Yeah, it's like there's one short scene where he gets exploded.
Exactly. They're speaking Klingon and they have head bumps.
Yeah.
The Klingons are complete.
So during the production of the film, Fred Phillips passed his milestone of molding his 2000th Spock ear.
Oh, wow.
So that just kind of goes to show you how many
did they have to make for the series?
A shit ton.
Yeah, like, did those things wear out real quick?
Yeah, they went through 3 sets of ears a day, apparently.
Oh, jeez.
Yeah.
Well, you probably should redesign those.
Yeah. Like, he told this story where it was such an operation that, and he did it so often that he kind of had like this routine where he would, because he had to bake them in like a kiln.
Oh yeah.
So he had this routine where he would make ears on the weekend, like his last batch of ears on the of the week. He would put in as overnight, and then the people would know to turn off the kiln in the morning.
Yeah.
Because it's supposed to be like 8 hours of whatever. But like one weekend, the people forgot to turn it off, so the kiln was fucking burning all weekend.
Yeah.
And he came back, and obviously
charred ears.
Obviously, yeah, they were. He had to make a bunch of ears on the fly that day because he had no ears.
Wow. And that was for this film?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah.
That was during this film.
You figure they could have saved some money if they didn't have to make so many ears. Like, what was the ear budget on this?
Yeah, probably pretty fucking high. But they just, I guess they just let Fred do what he's going to do, and nobody thought to be like, wait, how many ears? What's your ear situation?
Yeah. He didn't have the efficiency of Michael Westmore.
No, it seems not.
No. Michael Westmore, for those who aren't familiar with the Star Trek, multiverse, it's he's the guy who did, like, I think most of the makeup for most of the series, like, basically from TNG onwards.
Right. So yeah, this is where it gets kind of like bad.
Yeah.
So, what's her name? What's the actress's name who played?
Ilea? Who played Ilea?
Yeah.
Played.
Yeah. What's her name? Persis Kambata.
Yes.
She had to have her head shaved daily.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. I should have assumed that she doesn't normally have a shaved head.
Have a fully bald head.
Yeah.
As you can imagine, shaving your scalp every day is like not the most like pleasant thing on your skin.
I can imagine the fact that it is not.
So yeah, they had to like keep up like this rigorous skincare routine to keep her scalp healthy, so that like her hair would grow back. So that's the first thing.
Could they not have just used a bald cap?
That's what I was thinking, and like it might have looked a bit weird, but like.
I mean, I don't know where bald cap technology was at that time, but
yeah, like I feel like they could have made it happen.
Yeah, I think they could have made it work. I don't
know. So apparently William Shatner would chew gum and blow bubbles while having his makeup done, which seems like it would be really irritating. And apparently one time, because he did it, I think, to tease the makeup guy. One time he blew a bubble and it just popped all over his face, like just before there's like as he was finishing
on Shatner's face.
Yeah, just as they were finishing the makeup, and it was like he was about to go on. So there's like this whole fucking operation of like scraping all this fucking. Ew. I think he said he like used the gum and he like dabbed it off his face.
So who was doing this?
It was just whoever was doing makeup then.
Yeah.
Yeah. So the only original props used in this film are the earpieces. Uhura's earpieces. Okay, apparently they're like.
Well, I mean,
they're like.
The props from the original series were like significantly worse in quality.
Yeah, like I'm surprised even those were good enough to use. Like, frankly.
I mean, I wouldn't have used them.
Yeah. Like I'm gonna have to look closely. So yeah, and there was a few phasers, but obviously they updated the phaser and at extreme cost, because apparently this new prototype cost $4,000 to make
per phaser.
I don't know. I don't necessarily think it was per phaser. I think it was just the prototype.
Right. Wow. Must have been some sophisticated shit.
But that's what I'm just like trying to think, like literally how.
I mean, did it light up? Like, I don't know.
Yeah.
Or was it just a dumb prop?
It cost $4,000, so it's an expensive dumb prop.
I mean, I'm sure it would cost more than $4,000 now if you wanted to buy one.
So it has actually appreciated in value.
Yeah.
So apparently Gene would like contact people at NASA.
Yeah.
To like make sure he's like on the up and up.
What do you mean?
With his, I think it was like they were like scientific accuracy kind of stuff.
Oh, to try to make sure that he knows what he's talking about.
Yeah, exactly.
And then NASA engineers were just like, we'll take time out of our very busy schedules to talk to you.
Yeah, I think they were actually his friends because I think he like
Oh, okay, right. Or
because I
fans.
think yeah because I think he they were like not he didn't just talk to them for this film. I think they were like his NASA contacts.
Okay, I see. Yeah.
So yeah, so then they almost secured the actual Voyager
Oh yeah, for
model,
the film,
the
or
backup model,
probably
not the
not the one, because that was, I assume, in space at the time. But like the backup or whatever. Yeah.
yeah. But apparently it was just decided that it would just be easier and cheaper just to build a new one because they'd have to be
Yeah, I mean,
super
you'd have to be
careful with
real
it.
careful with the the real thing.
Yeah. So they had an astronaut continuing along with NASA. They had an Apollo 9 astronaut coach the actors and the doubles on how to act in space.
Oh, do you know who it
Um,
was?
I don't remember who it was. I don't know that the book I was reading said,
Oh, okay.
but I'm looking up Apollo 9 now because
Well, there
I'm
were only
curious.
3 people on it, so.
Who could it have been? It was either Commander James McDivitt, Command Module Pilot David Scott, and Lunar Module Pilot Rusty Schwickert. Schweckert.
How's that spelled?
Schweikart. Schweikert. So one of those three guys. If you want to know more about the Apollo missions, listen to our second episode.
Yeah. Well, I don't think it covers Apollo 9, but
I think it might. That was
does it?
back when we were doing our dives were too deep for our own good.
Yeah.
So apparently there were thousands of miles of wiring. We were talking about making the bridge earlier. There's thousands of miles of wiring involved in lighting the bridge. I don't think it was wired very safely. I think all the electronics in this movie were done pretty fucking haphazardly.
Yeah.
Because apparently at first the lights were melting the plastic of the console because they were just running too hot.
That's no good, yeah.
And then there's the incident with Chekhov's burn. Because, yeah, you remember in the movie, his arm gets burned.
Yeah, what, did that happen for real?
Well, okay, so I'll read you an excerpt here. It says, Chekhov's burn scene was even trickier. Although the entire incident takes only a few minutes in the film, it took Alex many hours of preparation. First, a piece of aluminum foil was placed around the actor Walter Koenig's arm. Then a protective pad was added, and his uniform sleeve was pulled down in place. Alex prepared a compound of ammonia and an acetic acid solution. At the right moment, this was touched to Walter's sleeve, and the interaction of the chemicals causing it to smoke. There were difficulties, and the procedure had to be repeated through 10 takes. It was especially uncomfortable for Walter, whose arm was slightly burned when, despite precautions, some of the solution leaked through to his arm. His screams were not entirely acting.
Yeah.
Jesus Christ.
Poor Walter.
Like,
I feel bad for Walter Koenig, because it feels like he's been so shafted, like, in the history of Star Trek.
He's the last man.
Yeah, I know.
He's the last guy.
Yeah, and then they didn't even let him be in the animated series, and then he's never had like any character development.
Yeah, they've never focused on him at all. Might be because he's Russian.
I don't know, man. I think Chekhov deserves better.
I agree. Maybe we should push like a Chekhov series.
Yeah, just focusing on Chekhov.
Would it be an origin series or a post?
Well, I mean, I feel like Chekhov's origins are like on TOS. Like he seems to be fairly.
It's pretty early Chekhov.
Yeah. But like, yeah, I want to know what happens to him.
Yeah. So that's pretty bad. Walter Koenig had it pretty bad, but he didn't have it the worst. Persis Kambata, she had it the worst, it seems.
Besides having her head shaved.
Besides having her head shaved every day. So apparently the shower scene was not a good scene.
Grow? How fast does her hair grow? I guess pretty fast.
Yeah,
I guess it's got to be completely bald.
Exactly. The 5 o'clock shadow starts appearing.
Yeah.
On your head.
Yeah.
So apparently she caught tonsillitis from the shower scene. The shower scene is just shouldn't have happened.
Yeah.
It seems, just because it was like the only reason was so that we could like see her almost naked.
Right.
And which is just weird because she's not supposed to be like. Why are they sexualizing this probe?
I
I don't get
wait.
it.
Is this after she's already the probe?
Yeah,
Oh, jeez, yeah. Weird.
it's just weird. It's just
Yeah.
weird. So, but in order to make this shower, like the steam in the shower, to make it look good, they had the mist that they pumped in was actually toxic, so she couldn't breathe while she was in there.
Couldn't
So
they
she
just
would have
use
to
like fucking dry ice or some shit?
I don't know, but it was toxic, and she had to leave. Apparently, quote, leave frequently for fresh air.
Jeez.
More so, she cut herself on the fake wall when she had to break through it.
How bad? Oh, right. That. Yeah.
Yeah, and then
It's like, what was that wall made of?
yeah, well, some sort of like metal apparently, and she like cut her hand. on it.
Really? What?
Yeah.
That seems like a terrible idea.
Yep. And then
Could they just make it out of styrofoam or something?
yeah, I don't know. Like I don't know. It was not a well done thing. And finally, the light on her neck apparently was hot enough to burn her so much that it left a mark.
Like,
Like,
jeez.
Like
I guess
that's,
did they not? I guess they didn't have LEDs back then.
No. So it was like, and I think the battery was like, it was like a wire thin thing, and like the battery was hidden like in her back somewhere.
Jeez, that's rough.
Yeah, that was rough. But this last detail is about the lighting in the engine room, because that was super sick.
Wait, so which scene are we talking about, or just in general in the?
It's like the warp core, like
Oh,
that
right,
massive tube thing with like fluctuating light, like that.
Yeah,
so
yeah.
that thing was live. That was not post production.
Oh,
Like that was happening. They filmed that while the actors were there, and that blew my mind a bit. To be honest, I just assumed that was something to do with post production because it looks so fucking cool.
yeah, I'm
and
gonna have to look at that again, but yeah.
So yeah, this effect was produced by these two guys named Sam Nicholson and Brian Longbottom, and their story is super interesting. I won't.
Okay.
Yeah, I won't go super into it, but these guys have a super fascinating story. Like they're just basically two friends who got really into like special effects, like making like abstract special effects and like lighting experiments, and they made like a reel of like super hardcore next level shit, and they sent it in, and it just happened to make its way onto their desk. Like these guys are like, they're 25 years old, and they're like, sent a random reel in, and it got picked up by Star Trek. It's like,
yeah, that's pretty cool.
And then they just gave them this massive budget to make this fucking thing. According to
that is actually something that I will mention that is kind of a recurring thing throughout the history of Star Trek, is that a lot of times they've just brought in random people who sent shit to them.
I think that's awesome. That's like
one of the like biggest writers of the later series, Ronald D. Moore, literally just sent in a script to Star Trek: The Next Generation, and then they're like, "All right, you want to write some more?" And then he ended up like becoming like produce like one of the showrunners of like Deep Space Nine.
That's amazing.
Yeah,
I love it. Like that's
also
that's
you some people probably know Ronald D. Moore for also creating Battlestar Galactica, the reboot.
So finally, that's basically it with production. Shooting took 125 days. So that's how that was the production. So they made their rough cut and they sent it off to guess who?
Jerry Goldsmith. Yeah.
So then we have kind of
What do we
one more
got?
section, one more segment before we close her off with our final thoughts.
Is it just this one? All right, yeah. Yeah, tell us about the truth.
All right, so we're going to talk about the Voyager program. You know, this is the real shit. So on this segment, you know, we like to find something in this movie and then talk about how it's real and true. And sometimes that manifests as actual facts, and sometimes it manifests as talking about aliens.
You could talk about aliens today.
Today it could have been
reasonable.
It really could have been both.
Route to that.
It could have gone both ways. It could have gone both ways at the same time. Really.
So should we talk about the aliens that the machine planet that Voyager goes to? Oh, I was actually I never brought this. We never brought this up in the last episode, but I just want to note that V'ger uses the phrase "resistance is futile."
Yeah.
Yeah, which is interesting.
It's a kind of a foreshadowing.
Foreshadowing. Those people who are fans of Star Trek will know what we're talking about.
Yeah, and like where did he get this technology?
What was the machine planet? I don't know.
Yeah, who knows?
Yeah,
we'll never know.
Yeah, we'll never know. But anyway, yeah. Talk about aliens or whatever.
No, there's no aliens this week. We're talking about actual Voyager, diggity. This is real stuff. This is the actual Voyager program.
Okay, yeah, but there's a little bit about the actual Voyager that a little bit has to do with aliens.
Yeah, it's true. The Voyager, I mean, inherently, it's super alien-y, really. I mean, Voyager program it's currently ongoing. That's what's so sick about it.
Yeah, somehow those fucking batteries are still running.
Like, it might be the coolest, like, NASA program, like, maybe other than the moon landing, but, like...
Yeah, I don't know, man. Let's see what happens with the James Webb Space Telescope.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, pretty cool shit, but...
Yeah, this episode is made pre that, so and who knows?
Well, it's kind of happening right now.
If you're listening to this in the future, and if
you're listening to this in the future, and the James Webb Space Telescope has spectacularly failed, that's too bad.
That's too bad. Or if it's found aliens and we're living in a different.
Exactly.
So it could be, yeah. Anyway, so the Voyager program, basically, they're two probes that were launched in 1977, and in 1977,
basically ripped for this movie.
Yeah, basically. So the reason that they did it, like in 1977, was because Jupiter and Saturn were like kind of aligned in a favorable way, so they like could kind of bounce off of them. Well,
yeah, they were able to plan a trajectory that used the minimum amount of fuel and let them visit both planets.
Exactly.
So had any? This is the first time they'd ever sent a probe to Jupiter or Saturn, right?
Yeah. This is the first time they're like going like this far out.
Yeah,
basically.
They're voyaging.
Yeah, it's
into
this
the final
Voyager.
Frontier. They're going where no one has gone before.
Yeah, exactly. No one. Yeah. Well, human.
No human has still been there, but
Yeah.
One day.
One day.
Although,
So the like I said earlier, the cool thing about Voyagers is still fucking going. As of 2021, the two Voyagers are still in operation past the outer boundary of the heliosphere and in interstellar space.
Partial operation. Like, I'm sure they don't have enough power to run all the instruments anymore.
No, but they continue to transmit useful data to Earth.
Yeah, that's pretty cool.
That's
pretty damn cool.
Like
I don't think we're getting photos back anymore.
No, definitely not. But here's a great quote. It's from a guy named Stephen J. Pine. I'm not sure who he is, but Voyager did things no one predicted, found scenes no one expected, and promises to outlive its inventors. Like a great painting or abiding institution, it has acquired an existence of its own, a destiny beyond the grasp of its handlers.
Wow.
That's
It
such a good quote.
Yeah, and then it it came back.
It's gonna turn into V'ger and come back.
Yeah,
It's gonna
or
come back and
Nomad.
find us. So I've included a link here in the outline, which is a super interesting website that you can go to. That it's the Voyager mission status, and it shows you where the Voyagers are in space.
Oh, that's cool.
It's super cool, and it's like a 3D diagram of the our solar system.
Oh wow,
And
that's really far.
and they show you the perspective from Voyager. So I urge all
This is actually
listeners.
something that I didn't think about, but now that I see it, it makes a lot of sense. Is that the direction that Voyager travels is the opposite of the way that I imagine when I look at it. But it kind of makes sense because that means that the dish is pointed back to Earth.
Right. Yeah, I see what you're saying. Yeah.
Because you would, I don't know, you assume that the side with the dish is like, quote unquote, the front,
Yeah.
but it's actually the opposite direction that it's moving.
Yeah, it's facing us.
Yeah. But yeah, that's really damn cool.
Yeah, it's super cool. So yeah, I urge all listeners to check out the
So Voyager
the
2 is
website.
actually the one that's further away, right?
Yeah, well, because Voyager 2 was actually launched first.
Oh, it was?
Yeah, which I'm not sure exactly why. I think it's because they changed their plans kind of last minute about what they were gonna do, so they just launched Voyager 2 first.
Right.
So this is interesting. NASA indicates if we define our solar system as the sun and everything that primarily orbits the sun, Voyager 1 will remain within the confines of the solar system until it emerges from the Oort cloud in another 14,000 to 28,000 years. So,
yeah, I mean, there's a lot of distance between the solar system and anything else.
this is I just find Voyager it's such a
Yeah, it really makes you think,
fucking
because
thing.
it's so far yet also so close. You know what I mean?
Yeah, we're getting information, and it's literally the farthest thing from us.
Yeah, it's an amazing achievement.
It's unfathomable how far away it is right now.
It's the farthest away that anybody has ever sent anything.
It's the farthest away that we know a thing can be.
Well, no, that's not true.
That we know for sure.
What do you mean?
With tangible evidence, we have physical
depends
evidence.
what you mean by tangible evidence.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm talking out my ass now, but
we
still.
know what the distance between Earth and Alpha Centauri is. You know what I mean?
No, I was getting philosophical there in the sense that we don't know that it exists. But that's the
we know it
dumbest
exists.
point ever. Yeah, we. I mean, we are.
We don't know that
simulation.
scientists know anything.
Yeah, I mean, we're living in a simulation, so.
Right. All right, there, Elon.
Yeah, exactly. It's the Matrix.
Yeah. Yeah.
But yeah, so that's the truth. That's Voyager. They're still fucking powering through.
Yeah,
And hopefully they'll keep giving us information for many years to come. Hopefully they find aliens.
Or aliens find it. And they find the record. The golden
more
record.
likely that'll be, yeah. Oh yeah, I forgot to mention the golden record.
I mean, everybody knows about the golden record, right?
Yeah. Well, did you want to just give a super brief rundown of the golden record?
Okay, well, actually, what a lot of people don't know about the golden record is that it's not entirely an audio disc.
No?
It's not like a regular record at all.
What is it?
It's actually got pictures on it.
Yeah. Well, it's got two sides. So one side is
one side is just audio, right?
Yeah.
And then the other side is this encoded, bunch of pictures and things like that.
Yeah, exactly. It's got
they attempted to draw on the cover about how one alien would build a device that would play this back. I don't think they put in that much effort into this because I don't think they have a realistic expectation that anybody who
Yeah,
found it would be able to like actually figure out how to use it.
yeah. It's got like kind of like what they tried to do is put the simplest form of
Yeah,
explanation of stuff, like in terms of like they put like binary code and like they like
yeah,
showed like that they understand a diagram of a hydrogen atom, stuff like
yeah.
that, where it's like if you look at it and you don't know anything, like maybe you could figure it out.
Maybe I
I
don't
was
know, but I mean that's the thing is like if there was an alien Voyager flying through our solar system right now, would we even see it?
Yeah, would we? It would
Would
have
we
to
even find it?
it would have to
Because
fly
it would be
pretty
so
close to Earth.
small by comparison, right?
Yeah, like it would have to fly pretty close to Earth for us to even notice it, wouldn't it?
I think so. I don't know. I'm not an
I mean,
expert on that, but
it's true. I don't really know how far, how much
well,
we're
I mean, I
observing
think
traffic.
it's not. It's not so much the distance. It's like I think that if we knew where it was, we'd be able to see it. But there's just
Right.
so much space.
There's just debris and like there's just shit flying through it. So
Yeah, so like if we knew where it was, we could point a camera at it. We could point like the James Webb Space Telescope or something at it,
yeah,
and
exactly.
then like be able to see it. But like it's like a needle in a haystack, right?
Yeah, exactly. If you don't know it's there,
Yeah.
it's like a needle in a haystack that you don't know is there.
I mean, how many needles do you know are in haystacks?
As far as I know, there could be several.
Yeah. There's an unknown quantity of needles
Yeah,
in the
it's
haystack.
undefined.
But yeah, so who knows? Maybe there could be an alien Voyager flying through our solar system right now. We don't even know it's there.
That is an interesting thought.
Yeah,
I hope
mean,
there is.
Somebody at why? I mean, I hope we find it if there's
Yeah.
there.
I hope it crash lands in
Anyway.
my backyard.
But yeah, no, I just also want to clarify for people that that they did put this golden record in Voyager, but the primary purpose of Voyager is not to contact aliens.
Yeah, no. They included
That was kind of an afterthought.
Yeah. And what was the other
Yeah.
thing? The other plaque. There's another plaque that has like that Carl Sagan worked on. Similar idea.
Yeah.
It's just kind of like philosophical stuff for humans. And I think people have like also there. I've heard people be like, they shouldn't have done that, man. The aliens are gonna know how to kill us now.
I mean,
It's like,
man,
yeah, I mean,
I don't think any.
I don't think that's
if
gonna make
the
the
aliens wanted
difference.
to kill us, and they could get to us.
exactly. That's not gonna.
I
make
don't
the
think they
difference.
need Voyager for that.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But anyway, we've rambled enough about Voyager in space, so let's bring it back for the last final little bit and talk about your final thoughts of this movie,
I think it was
which is Star Trek: The Motion
Underrated.
Picture.
underrated film because I think a lot of
Underrated.
people don't like it.
And why do you think people don't like it?
Because people think it's boring is the vibe that I got, but I think it's good, and I think it makes you think.
I think it's like there are silly moments for sure, but that's kind of just par for the course with Star Trek,
Yeah, I mean, I don't
Especially-
think it. Yeah, I mean, I don't want to put words in anybody's mouth, but I don't think it's the silliness that puts people off. I think it's because if you like Star Trek, I think
you have to
you have to expect
accept
that.
that. Yeah.
I mean, yeah. But
Yeah. I thought it moved at a great pace, and I think last week we mentioned the fact that the first half hour was just for
it's
diehard
fan
fans.
service, basically. Yeah.
Yeah, which is totally understandable.
Yeah, I mean, these people have been waiting. Give people what they want.
Yeah, exactly.
Although
Like base.
a lot of people said it wasn't what they wanted.
Well, it was never gonna be. It was like when Star Wars came back just now. Like no one, it's never gonna be. I mean, that's
It's
inherently
funny you
different.
say
'cause it
just
was,
now, but it's been several years.
Whatever. It's been like almost 10 years since the first one came out. But still, the point is, actually, the
Hasn't
point
been
is
that
that they're
long.
not the same at all because those are
Yeah.
terrible. But at least the ones that I saw were.
Stop talking about Star Wars. It's not one.
Yeah, sorry. Yeah, I might even cut that out.
This is a
not even-
Trek
This is
episode.
This is a Trek episode. Yeah, I agree. I think this is probably underrated. I think it's good. I think it's really good Star Trek. I think it's an excellent step back in.
Exactly, and I think it's also interesting. It's it's the one glimpse into what the 70s version of Star Trek is.
Yeah,
We ever get, because it's
exactly.
like, every other decade has had Star Trek in it.
It's the glimpse into the desert years. Like, we're seeing the... Yeah, I think we're pretty high on this movie.
Yeah, higher than most people, I think.
Yeah, I think so. Like, there's definitely stupid parts.
Yeah.
But again,
I
as you
think,
say,
we could have used a better, like, explanation about what was going on with the Kolinar and everything.
yeah. I think there's a few. There's definitely a few things that could have been improved. It's definitely not a perfect
the wormhole bit is probably unnecessary, but good adaptation of the episode that changed.
Yeah, I think they made something out of that nightmare. Not that the episode was a nightmare. I just mean it. Gene described it as a nightmare, making it. So
yeah, creating the process.
Yeah, but yeah.
Anyway,
that was a chunky episode, but
very chunky.
But
indeed,
we got through it together.
Yes, we did.
So congratulations, listeners. I'm congratulating you for listening to the episode.
Well, as you should be. You are a.
So yeah, that's.
Well, I think it's done.
Yeah, it's done.
I think that's it.
Yeah,
Good movie.
Yeah. So we'll be back next week with a whole different film.
All right.